The Serengeti is not a land of peace. It is a land of silent wars. No war was bloodier than the fall of Caesar. Caesar was a giant, a male lion with a mane as black as midnight and a roar that could silence thunder. He ruled the Sunlight Pride for 5 years, a reign unheard of in these brutal lands. But even kings bleed, and Caesar's threat didn't come from a stranger. It came from his own blood. His brother Cain was smaller, faster, and infinitely more cruel. Cain had always walked in Caesar's shadow. One scorching afternoon, while Caesar slept after a heavy meal, Cain made his move. He didn't come alone. He had secretly allied with 2 rogue males from the marshes, scarred killers with no honor. They attacked Caesar in his sleep. The ambush was brutal. Teeth sank into Caesar's spine before he could even stand. He roared, shaking the earth, swiping one of the rogues away with a force that shattered ribs, but he was overwhelmed. Cain targeted Caesar's back leg, snapping the bone with a sickening crunch. Caesar wasn't just defeated, he was humiliated. Dragged to the edge of the territory and thrown down a rocky ravine. He was left for the vultures. Cain stood at the top, looking down at his broken brother, and let out a roar that claimed the pride and the land. Caesar lay in the dust, unable to stand, listening to the screams of his own cubs being extinguished by the new king. For 3 weeks, Caesar was a ghost. A lion with a broken leg is usually dead within days. He could not hunt. He could not fight. He dragged his massive body through the dirt, surviving only on beetles, dirty water, and rotting leftovers of hyena kills. Ideally, he should have died. But the rage in his heart burned hotter than the fever in his blood. His leg healed crookedly, fusing into a thick, ugly knot of bone. He would never run with the same grace again. But the pain forged something else in him. It stripped away his arrogance. He was no longer a king. He was a survivor. One evening, starving and desperate, he stumbled upon a young buffalo calf separated from its herd. It was an easy kill, or it should have been, but as Caesar prepared to strike, a blur of golden fur tackled the calf first. It was another lion, young, reckless, and sporting a half-mane. He was clumsy, missing the jugular and getting kicked in the face. The calf was about to escape. Caesar, seeing an opportunity, didn't roar. He launched himself from the bushes, pinning the calf instantly. He finished what the young lion had started. The young male snarled, expecting a fight for the carcass. Caesar simply ripped a chunk of meat, ate it, and stepped back, leaving the rest. The young lion was confused. In the wild, charity does not exist. His name was Orion. He had been kicked out of his pride for being too small a runt. Caesar saw something in him. Not strength, but potential. They were an odd pair. The broken, massive giant and the small, energetic outcast. Orion was fast, but he lacked the killing instinct. Caesar had the power, but he lacked the speed. Together, they became a perfect weapon. Caesar taught Orion how to use his weight, how to strangle prey efficiently, and most importantly, how to fight dirty. In return, Orion became Caesar's legs. He would chase the prey into Caesar's ambush. They fed well. They grew strong. Over the next 2 years, the duo roamed the harsh borderlands. They fought off hyena clans, surviving battles. Caesar's limp became less of a weakness and more of a rhythm. He learned to pivot on his good leg, using his upper body strength. He was no longer just a lion, he was a tank. Orion grew to the runt filled out, his mane thickening into a lush gold. He wasn't the biggest lion, but he was the smartest. One night, the wind shifted. It carried a scent from the west. The scent of the sunlight pride. Caesar stopped. His tail twitched, the scars on his back itched. It was time. The sunlight pride was dying. Under Cain's rule, the territory had shrunk. He was a tyrant, not a protector. He killed for sport and neglected the borders. The lionesses were thin and the prey was scarce. When Caesar and Orion crossed the river boundary, the silence was deafening. They didn't sneak in. They walked right through the open plains. Cain was resting by the waterhole with his 2 lieutenants. When he saw the 2 intruders, he didn't recognize Caesar at first. The lion approaching him was scarred, limping, and dark-maned, but then Caesar let out a roar. It was a sound from the past, a deep, guttural thunder that Cain had heard in his nightmares. Cain stood up, his eyes widening in disbelief. The ghost had returned, but Cain laughed. He had 3 lions. Caesar only had Orion. The odds were still in his favor. Kill them, Cain ordered his lieutenants. The 2 lieutenants charged. Orion intercepted the first one. It was a blur of speed. Orion didn't grapple. He ducked under the attacker's swipe and clamped onto his throat, using the technique Caesar had taught him. Caesar took the second lieutenant. The enemy lion saw the limp and aimed for the bad leg. A fatal mistake. Caesar expected it. He braced himself, took the hit, and used the momentum to swing his massive paw into the lion's ear. The impact knocked the lieutenant unconscious instantly. Now, it was just Caesar and Cain. Cain was terrified. His soldiers were down. He looked for an escape, but Caesar blocked the path. "Brother," Cain snarled, baring his teeth. "I spared you once." Caesar didn't speak lion. He spoke violence. He charged. Cain was faster, dodging and slashing Caesar's face, reopening old wounds. Blood poured into Caesar's eyes, blinding him momentarily. Cain lunged for the throat, but Caesar didn't pull back. He leaned into the bite. His thick mane, grown dense over years of hardship, protected his neck. As Cain's teeth tangled in the hair, Caesar used his sheer, brute strength. He lifted Cain off the ground and slammed him into the earth. The impact knocked the breath out of the tyrant. Before Cain could recover, Caesar's jaws locked onto his spine, the same place Cain had bitten him years ago. Caesar didn't kill him. He applied just enough pressure to paralyze, to terrify. He leaned close, his heavy breathing the only sound in the clearing. Then, with a disgusted snort, he released him. Cain scrambled away, yelping, running into the wilderness, defeated and alone. He would not survive the night with the hyenas. The lionesses emerged from the tall grass. They looked at Caesar, then at the strong, golden Orion standing guard. They rubbed their heads against Caesar's chest, welcoming the true king home. Caesar sat on his old rock, overlooking the plains. He was battered, he was old, and he was tired. He looked at Orion, who was watching the horizon. Caesar knew his fighting days were numbered, but the pride was safe. The bloodline was secure. The king had returned not to rule forever, but to restore what was lost. And in the distance, the roar of the sunlight pride echoed once again, warning the world, the true kings are back.